I'm a brand new mom to a baby boy, and he truly feels like the brightest part of my life. Adjusting to motherhood hasn't been easy, it's exhausting in ways I never imagined, but these past few months have still been some of the most meaningful ones I've ever lived. Every day I'm just trying to balance being the best mom possible while not completely losing myself in the process. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years, and he's honestly the first man I've ever really loved. Before him, I had a couple of casual things and one kind of serious relationship back in college, but none of that ever came close to what I feel or thought I felt for him. He's always been supportive and kind, and I really believed we were doing well, both as new parents and as a couple. The pregnancy wasn't exactly planned. I was on birth control, but a stomach bug made it less effective, something I only found out afterward. I was terrified to tell him, unsure how he'd take it, but once the shock wore off, he actually seemed excited. He came to every appointment, helped set up the nursery, and was right by my side during labor. He even cried when he held our son for the first time, which of course made me cry too, though to be fair, at that point hormones made me cry over just about anything. He's been a pretty solid dad so far, changing diapers, handling late night feedings when I'm too tired to move, and even figuring out that bouncing on an exercise ball at 3 a.m. is the magic trick to get the baby to finally stop screaming. He makes sure I eat real meals instead of just grabbing granola bars and cold coffee, which I appreciate more than I can say. Then Friday night happened. He came home from work while I was putting away dishes, one of those rare peaceful moments when the baby was actually napping, and dropped a bomb on me. Out of nowhere, he asked for a paternity test. At first, I honestly thought I misheard him. I even laughed, assuming it was some weird attempt at a joke. I'm a different race than he is, but our son looks exactly like him in every way except skin tone. Same eyes, same nose, the same little dimple in the chin, even the identical cowlick in the back that makes their hair stick up every morning. His own mom had said it the first time she saw the baby, showing me old photos of him as a newborn and saying, "It's uncanny, he looks just like you." So when my boyfriend looked me in the eye and said he needed the certainty of a DNA test, it felt like a punch straight to the chest. I couldn't even form words at first. When I finally managed to ask if he was being serious, he nodded without hesitation and said it was important for him to know for sure. In that moment, the man I love was basically telling me he didn't trust me, that he believed I was capable of cheating and passing off another man's baby as his. I have never, not once, given him a reason to doubt me. I don't even keep close male friends anymore because he's made little comments before that stuck with me. Like when a former coworker texted me happy birthday, and he joked by asking if I was having an affair. Back then, I brushed it off as silly, but now I wonder if there was more behind it. I've tried to be transparent in every way. I literally share my location with him, not because he asked, but because it made sense when I was pregnant and commuting late. He can pick up my phone whenever he wants. I don't lock anything. I have nothing to hide. So when I finally asked him why he thought I would cheat, if I'd ever given him any reason not to trust me, he just shrugged uncomfortably and said it wasn't about me specifically, that it was something every man should do just to be sure. He promised he wouldn't go behind my back and do the test secretly, but said if our relationship was going to move forward, he needed 100% certainty. He repeated it a few times, like he wanted to hammer in how serious he was, and then walked away as if he hadn't just accused me of something awful. I spent the entire night crying silently in the bathroom while he slept soundly in our bed. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened, playing with the baby, asking if I wanted takeout, smiling like everything was perfectly normal. I just nodded and went through the motions, still trying to process the betrayal. That night, I tried again to talk about it. I told him I didn't understand where this was coming from, that I'd never given him any reason to doubt me in the 3 years we've been together. He kept saying it wasn't about trust, it was about certainty, that women always know the baby is theirs, but men don't have that same guarantee. I asked him if someone had been whispering in his ear or if something specific made him doubt me, but he denied it and said it was just a thought he couldn't shake. When I pointed out that what he was really saying was that he believed I could have cheated, gotten pregnant, and lied to him for months, he immediately got defensive, insisting he wasn't accusing me of anything, just asking for a reasonable request. But is it reasonable? To look at a baby who was basically your clone and demand proof? To ignore 3 years of loyalty and transparency and call it certainty? To me, it feels like being slapped across the face. After a couple of days of going back and forth in my head, I decided to let him have the paternity test. I have nothing to hide, and I know the truth will shut this down. I never cheated and never would, not that I'd even have the energy to. Between round-the-clock feedings and barely managing to shower once a week, I can't even remember the last time I brushed my hair properly, let alone had time for an affair. I even found myself online last night reading about different kinds of paternity tests, because apparently, this is where my life is now. I learned there are quick tests you can grab at a drugstore, but I read those aren't always reliable. Then there are the official lab tests, the kind that stand up in court, and that's the route I'm insisting on. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it properly. And once it proves what I already know, that he's the father, I'm done. I'll be leaving the very same day. I'll still try to co-parent with him in a way that's fair for our son, but I can't stay with someone who could actually look at me and believe I do something that awful. Just the thought of staying in this relationship makes me feel sick. In the meantime, I've been quietly making an exit plan. I've started scouting apartments that I can afford, putting aside part of my maternity leave money into a little get-out fund, and looking up lawyers to help with custody and child support arrangements. I had been saving for the baby's future, but now some of that money has to go toward making sure I have a safe way out. I'm also keeping a record of everything, just in case. I don't honestly believe he'd try to take our son away from me, but I'd rather be safe than regret not covering my bases. I haven't told my family or friends about any of this yet, because if I did, they'd explode. My brother would probably try to beat him up, and my mom, who was cheated on by my dad when I was little, would cut him out of her life forever. And my best friend, who never really liked him to begin with, would just smirk and say, "I told you so." I'm not ready for any of that. My main focus right now is protecting my baby. If this test is really so important to him, I hope it was worth it, because it's going to cost him me. I don't want to sound overly dramatic, but I just don't see a way to repair the damage. The trust is gone. Even if I wanted to forgive him, how would I ever feel safe that he wouldn't accuse me of something else down the road? What makes it worse is that he doesn't even seem to realize the weight of what he's done. He still moves through his day like nothing's wrong, playing with the baby, watching TV, suggesting pizza for dinner, while I sit here feeling like my whole world is collapsing. I'm holding it together for our child's sake, but inside I'm breaking. I'm not really looking for advice or reassurance or even an explanation of his side. I'm just coming to terms with the fact that this chapter of my life is over. Not the way I imagined starting the new year. Update number 1. We went ahead with the paternity test he demanded. It's been a couple of weeks since I first posted, and I've just been trying to process everything. For clarity, I'll call my boyfriend Mason from now on, not his real name, but easier to keep things straight. Why am I even posting here? Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe because I can't talk to anyone in my real life about this without them hating him forever. Maybe because I needed strangers to tell me I'm not crazy for feeling this way. Maybe I just needed a place to vent where it wouldn't follow me home. Probably all of the above. To clear up a few things people asked about, yes, Mason and I are different races. But as far as I know, his family has never had a problem with that. In fact, his mom actually set us up in the first place. I met her at a dinner party where Mason and I were the only single people there, and later she admitted she'd invited us both with matchmaking in mind. His whole family has always welcomed me. His mom calls almost every day to check in on me and the baby, and his sister even asked me to be a bridesmaid at her wedding before Mason and I were engaged. So no, I don't believe this is some kind of racial issue, despite what a few people suggested. Second, there's never been cheating, no shady behavior, no breaks in the relationship, no sketchy scenarios. We've had normal arguments, like about chores or what to binge on Netflix, but nothing serious. The only rough patch we hit was during my first trimester, when I was constantly sick and not the easiest person to be around. But we worked through it, and I honestly thought it made us stronger. Third, and this is the part that really gets me, our son is a carbon copy of him. Mason ended up telling his cousin about the paternity test, and the cousin told his wife, and soon the whole extended family was buzzing in their group chats. I'm not even in that chat, but his sister clued me in and apologized for the drama. Mason's mom finally shut it down by posting side-by-side photos of Mason as a baby and our son. People literally thought they were looking at the same child in all the pictures, just with different lighting. That's how much alike they look. I joke sometimes that it's annoying, like, I carried this baby for 9 months, and he couldn't even come out with one of my features? Where are my genes in this? Anyway, the gossip died after Mason's mom set the record straight. She even called me privately afterward to apologize for the whole mess and told me how disappointed she was in her son. She said, "I raised him better than this," which honestly broke me. I cried after hanging up. When his mom called to apologize, I broke down because at least someone finally seemed to understand just how devastating this was for me. Back when I wrote my first post, I was still in that red-hot anger stage. I wanted to pack my things and walk out. But once the fury cooled, all that was left was hurt. And when I thought about it more, I realized that if I blindsided him by leaving, I'd basically be doing the same thing he did to me, dropping a life-changing bomb with no warning. The difference now is we have a child, and that makes every decision so much heavier. It's not just about what would make me feel better in the moment, it's about what's best for our son. So, I made up my mind to talk to him. At the same time, I didn't want him to think I was trying to dodge the test. To keep it clear, I went ahead and booked appointments at 2 different testing facilities before saying a word. That way, no matter what happened in the conversation, the test would still happen. When he got home one night, I asked him to sit down with me. I'd already dropped our baby off with my mom, telling her I had a doctor's appointment. Not entirely untrue, we were going to medical offices, just not for me. I told him up front that the test was happening regardless, and then I asked the question that had been eating at me: where did this sudden doubt even come from? Was it something from a past relationship? Did he get cheated on before? He told me it started just a week before he brought it up. He said he'd been on his lunch break, scrolling through articles, and came across a story about a man who found out after 20 years that none of his 3 kids were biologically his. That sent him spiraling down a rabbit hole of podcasts and YouTube videos, all pushing this idea that every man should demand a paternity test. He admitted most of those guys sounded ridiculous, but when it came to paternity, he thought they had a point. His reasoning boiled down to this: because the baby comes out of you. But how do I know? I asked him directly if he thought I had actually cheated, or if this was just some kind of male paranoia thing. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. Finally, he said he didn't believe I cheated, but he couldn't be 100% sure, and that sliver of doubt was driving him crazy. That was a knife straight to my chest. Still, I tried to explain it to him. I told him that maybe, in his head, this sounded like a reasonable request. But from my perspective, it was him basically saying he didn't trust me at all. It was him saying he thought I could betray him, carry another man's child, and then manipulate him into supporting me emotionally, financially, and physically while raising that child as his own. I told him I knew women out there have done this, but the fact that he thought I was capable of it is what broke me. I even confessed the truth, that when I was angry, I had planned to leave. I had looked up lawyers, researched custody arrangements, and started looking at apartments. He looked stunned, like it had never even occurred to him that I might walk away. He called it an overreaction to something so small. That floored me. Small? Accusing me of cheating and lying about our child's paternity is small? I asked him, if this doesn't count as big to you, then what does? What would it take for something to matter? He backpedaled immediately, saying he didn't mean it like that he just didn't expect me to take it so hard. But honestly, what did he expect? That I'd just smile and say, "Sure honey, whatever makes you feel better," while he questioned my loyalty? I told him flat out that I was still hurt, deeply hurt, but if he needed this so badly, then we'd do it. When he asked what that meant for us as a couple, I was honest: I don't know if I can get past this. I don't know if I can stay with someone who thinks so little of me. He promised he'd make it up to me, said we could try couples counseling, that he'd do whatever it took. 2 days later, we took the test. 3 days after that, the results came in. No surprise, he's the father. The moment he saw the paper, he looked relieved, and somehow that cut me deeper than anything else. His relief meant he genuinely believed there was a chance the baby wasn't his. He actually wanted to celebrate. Suggested we go out to dinner or order something nice, like this was some kind of milestone. I couldn't even look at him. I went straight to the bedroom and cried. He followed me, confused, saying, "We should be happy. Now we know for sure." I told him, "No. You know for sure. I always knew." It's been about 2 weeks since then, and I'm still crushed. I thought maybe once the results came in, some of the pain would fade, but it hasn't. It's like something in me broke the moment he asked for the test, and I don't know how to fix it. I cry constantly. I know postpartum hormones are making everything feel heavier, but still, I wasn't like this before. I'm doing everything I need to for my son, waking up at night, feeding him, changing him, holding him. But inside, I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Like I'm watching myself from the outside, taking care of this tiny baby while my own heart feels shattered. I even moved into the spare room. He hated the idea, but I couldn't take it anymore. When I try to sleep next to him, I feel my whole body tense. Every time he reaches for me in the night, I freeze up. Every time he touches me, I pull away. These days, I feel almost repelled by him. Even the idea of being close makes my skin crawl. I've started searching for a therapist of my own, though honestly, I don't know how people manage to find one that clicks right away. Mason, on the other hand, is pushing for couples therapy. He's already lined up a few trial appointments, which I can admit is a genuine effort, but I don't know if effort is enough anymore. Last night things blew up. He wanted sex, and I just couldn't. The thought of him touching me made me freeze. When I pulled away, he snapped, accusing me of punishing him for something he considered reasonable. I told him it wasn't punishment, I just didn't feel comfortable. He stormed out like a sulking teenager. This morning he apologized, said he'd been insensitive and should give me more time. But then he asked how much time, as if healing from this kind of betrayal comes with a countdown clock. Like I could say, 17 days, and I'll be good as new. It doesn't work like that. He keeps talking about our future marriage, more kids, going back to normal, like he believes this whole ordeal somehow made us stronger. Meanwhile, I feel like our relationship is weaker than a card tower on a windy day. I don't even know if I'd call us together anymore. Affection is gone. I'm not in the right headspace, and I don't want him touching me. Conversations revolve around the baby and little else. Everything else between us feels hollow and forced. I keep searching for a path back to how we were, but I can't see one. Edit, thank you to everyone who's reached out with kind words. Please don't worry, I have a plan. I've already spoken to a lawyer and mapped out a childcare and custody plan. My family lives nearby and knows everything now. I also own a rental property I can move into if needed. Our finances are separate, so I'm covered there. Right now, I'm staying in the spare room, focusing on keeping my mental health steady and making sure our son is safe and happy. Individual therapy and couples counseling might confirm what my gut told me from the start, that leaving is the right move. But I want to be certain before making a final decision. It's not easy to walk away when a child is in the picture, so I'm taking this step by step. Update number 2, it's been a while since I posted. A lot has happened, and I've been trying to process it. My old account got locked, so I'm posting from a new throwaway. The short version, I left. Things went downhill fast, and under my lawyer's advice, I can't share too many details while court is ongoing. But I want to update, because so many of you were kind to me when I felt completely alone. We did try. I went to couples therapy with Mason, and I also started seeing a therapist individually. The solo sessions helped me more than I can explain. My therapist validated that my feelings were real and justified, that I wasn't overreacting, no matter how many times Mason said I was. In couples therapy, Mason played the role perfectly, apologizing, saying the right things, promising to rebuild trust. But outside of those sessions, it was a different story. He grew impatient, frustrated that I was still hurt. When I explained that trust doesn't just snap back, he accused me of holding a grudge. The final straw was when I discovered he'd been telling his family and friends that I was suffering from postpartum depression, and that's why I was acting irrational about the paternity test. In his version of events, I was the unstable one, and he was the patient, long-suffering partner. When I confronted him, he denied it at first, then admitted it, justifying it by saying he didn't want to look bad. So instead, he sacrificed my reputation and mental health to protect his own image. When I told him I wanted to separate, he begged. When begging didn't work, he got angry, calling me hormonal and unreasonable. Then, when that failed too, he escalated, telling people I was unstable and shouldn't be left alone with our baby. That was it. There was one incident, I can't go into details, but it wasn't physical. It was enough to scare me into knowing I had to get out right then. I packed what I could, took my son, and left. Since then, Mason has flooded my phone with alternating apologies and threats. I changed my number. Now, I only communicate through my lawyer or a co-parenting app that keeps a record of every exchange. Surprisingly, his mom has been one of my biggest supporters. She's visited her grandson, apologized for her son's behavior, and even offered to testify on my behalf if needed. I never expected that, but her support has been a lifeline. We're now in the middle of custody proceedings. It's exhausting, draining, and heartbreaking, especially because there was a time when I really, truly loved him. I never imagined we'd end up here. Sometimes I still catch myself wondering if I could have done something differently, if there was a way to save us. But then I remember the accusations, the lies, the way he smeared me to cover his own guilt, and I know there wasn't. For now, I'm pouring everything into my son and building a new life. Thank you again for all the encouragement and perspectives. Once everything is finalized, I may update again. But right now, my energy belongs to my child and to rebuilding myself from the ground up.